Hey everyone, so 8.14 drops today and it's going to change a lot. I know I say that all the time, but trust me, there are a bunch of AD buffs, teleport nerfs, the funnel strat is going to be dead, probably smite mid alongside that, as well as a lot of other champion changes. To keep it a bit easier to follow, I've got the biggest changes to start with that everybody really should know about, then I separated them out into changes for the different roles. There are going to be timestamps down below if you would like to go to your specific role. I would recommend you watch the biggest changes first, it will affect everybody, and then go to your role. So the first biggest change is to Conqueror. The bonus AD has been decreased on it. It's still just as good late game, but it now starts giving you a lot less AD earlier into the game. The idea is that true damage isn't that good for tanks to play against. Funny enough, who would have thought giving someone a way to bypass your armor that you're stacking was going to be a bad idea? So those tanks are struggling way more than Riot wanted. It also means that Grasp of the Undying, which is actually pretty good, press the attack maybe, they also might be better in comparison again, and you don't have to always take Conqueror now. So you're basically going to see a lot of different keystones in the game from 8.14 hopefully, but the other one, the other big one, is to the funnel strat. This is what is going to kill funnel and probably smite mid as well. Until you complete the item fully, your gold generation is going to be a lot lower. Smite mid is also like a self funnel. It's why it works. You want to farm the jungle, you want to farm mid lane, you want to farm crabs, so you should have the most gold in the game and be affected by that. The good thing is that junglers should still be okay. They are going to upgrade fully and they'll be fine, but basically do not try to funnel now in 8.14. It's not going to work anywhere near as well. The other really big change is to teleport. The cooldown has been increased, so the base cooldown is going to be up 60 seconds, and if you cancel it, it'll now be 40 seconds longer than normal. So both sides of it are going to be worse. So we're probably going to go back to heal on AD carries. There's no real point taking a TP anymore because it'll just take too long. And also we're probably going to swap to like Ignite for top laners. Maybe the mid lane will shift, but mostly top laners are taking TP right now, and they might want to go for a more lane focused summoner. If that happens, we're going to have way more action. I think it will, honestly. Ignite had a few buffs. It is really good at the moment. We're going to have less bot lane parties, more focus on winning the lane phase. Weaker laners would definitely suffer a lot more because you can't just teleport back if you die or something like that. Like, heals will mean a lot more. You can't just TP back, get the farm anyway. You're actually gonna have to run back, and it will be a lot worse. Vayne is another big change for this patch. W damage has been increased late game. The percentage true damage, and messing with true damage is always pretty scary. Most people right now actually do build Rage Bait. They normally go Blade the Ruin King, then they get a Rage Bait afterwards. That plays around the percentage damage on the Blade the Ruin King, and now you get even more of that buffed Silver Bolt damage. I think if you build crit, it's still going to be a little bit too slow, but if you play around the Silver Bolts, you get your Rage Bait, you try to max it as well, like a little bit earlier into the game, you could actually do really well with this. The issue is that Vayne is weak early game, and the game is very fast, but this might actually be a way to get around that. Another pretty nuts one is Vel'Koz is getting his Q damage ratio increased, so it's going to have an 80% AP ratio now. That's 20% more than it was before. 80% is really high for something that you're going to be able to spam and poke with. Supports actually get way more gold now, remember, as well. You have more AP from runes, so that's going to be doubly bad. You could have this as a bot lane carry. We saw Def do that in the LCK. You could have it as a support. You could have it as the mid lane. We should see a lot more Vel'Koz because his Q is really going to sting. Talent is also finally getting nerfed. His W return damage has been decreased at later ranks. It's by a fair chunk actually, 40 off it. So this might mean less roaming. It'll be easier to contain Talent in the lane phase. Right now he can push very easily, especially with Temu and his W max. If he can't do that though, you can push against him a little bit easier, and then you can stop him from hopping over walls and stop him running around, and it'll just be less of a pain in the ass to play against. Aatrox has a bunch of different changes. Right now he is permabanned. I haven't seen him in a game recently because he is just banned by one team or both teams pretty much every game. What they're going to do is make him worse early game though, and then have better late game scaling, especially with the teleport nerfs right now in this patch and the Ignite as well to counter his healing. I feel like that will be a good way to put him behind, and it might keep him down a little bit more, which means we don't have to deal with the monster that Aatrox can be. Fizz has his W rework this patch, so it's no longer going to deal bonus damage against prime targets with that mark. The base damage has been increased as well. It now grants on hit damage though if the empowered attack does not kill its target. It's a different way to play Fizz if you want to think of it like that. There's a bit more counterplay. He can't one-shot you as easily. Like the damage he has isn't as front-loaded. That might also mean though that we get something like a tank Fizz come back. Like if you're going to have on hit damage, you're going to get some attack speed. If you build tank items to last longer in a fight and you just play around that W max, it actually could be pretty good. So Ghost Borrow and Zombie Ward are both going to be getting kind of mini reworks. Ghost Borrow now requires an active placement, so after a second in a brush, your current trinket becomes a Ghost Borrow item, which then you can use to place it. There's also a new thing about that, so while either you or your Ghost Borrow is anywhere in enemy territory, so past the river, you're going to be gaining some AP or AD adaptive. It's way better than before in my opinion. You have control over the placement, which is desperately needed, and more damage as well when you're playing ahead. It is kind of useless when you're behind though. One, the ward isn't going to last very long because they can still spook it if they go in the same brush and you won't have any control. And two, obviously you're not going to be pushed up to the enemy half of the map, so you won't be getting any of the bonus AP or AD either. It's kind of like a higher risk but a higher reward. I actually really like the zombie ward one as well, though there's two sides. It's better for damage and it's also a little bit worse for control. It's a more active rune. You destroy a ward and then you fight afterwards and you get this bonus damage, right? You probably want to start sweeper or get it early when you take this so you can actually get that damage more often. It actually does more damage than a scorch. It is insane in terms of that, so it's definitely worth taking. Now we're going to get into the different roles though. So if you would like to skip ahead to your particular role or the roles that you play, I'll put timestamps down below, but AD carry is going to be first as it's probably some of the bigger ones. So Jinx and Twitch are both getting their base health increased, but their health growth over the game has been lowered. Kind of risky buffs really. These two are okay at the moment. They're decent, I think. Jinx had some major buffs recently. Twitch is better as well. They are late game champions though, both in the same mid to late game, right? So you're increasing their early game power and letting them standing more of a chance to get to that late game. Siv's Q cooldown has also been decreased, and I think Siva will probably come back this patch, honestly. Max is first, and it's a lot of damage, and you have even better wave clear. There are two builds you can go with this, really. Like Essence Reaver will make it have an even lower cooldown now. Use every like 5 seconds maybe or something like that, and you also have the mana regen. Storm Razor is also very good on Siva though, and the cooldown is going to be lower anyway because of this buff. So if you skip cooldown reduction and go for raw damage instead, that would be a pretty good option. I mean, both are really good and make her better. Finally, Swain is going to be here. Not an AD carry, I know, but he is bot lane at the moment most of the time. You're going to have a 30% lower AP ratio on your ultimate, which is a huge chunk to lose. It's okay because we don't hard stack AP, so we're not losing a ton. We get a mix of AP and defense normally, like a Zhonya's, right? But that also means that every little bit of AP that we had before was going to be a bit better. So jumping into the mid lane, Zoe is the biggest change here. Your W base damage is going down 60 rank 5 and 10% less AP as well. It's a big nerf to the Lich Bane style of play, in my opinion, weaving in and out of combat using your W in team fights. It benefits being very close. It doesn't really hit the Ludens and Deathcap and Burst playstyle, just using your Q. It might be a little bit lower if you get a W in there as well, but you won't be feeling this anyway until you've maxed it. So mid to late game. Ahri is also quite a big one. Her E mana cost has been decreased, or a charm, and also the duration has been increased early ranks. It's quite a big change because it's 1.4 seconds rank 1, and you do not max this, so it's going to stay at that buff level for quite a while. It's going to hold them in place so you can kill them a bit easier, you can engage, you have better follow-up from your team, and again, though, it is actually putting more importance on hitting your charm, so if they flash it, you're kind of boned. Cassiopeia also has a Q base damage increased late game, the ratio increased at the same time, and you do spam this a lot as Cassiopeia, so more AP and more base does help. It's not really helping early game though, and that's probably where Cassiopeia needs the help at the moment. Most people max their E, so you're not going to feel it as a rank 5 Q for quite a while in the game. Corki is getting a buff. Now he does have a very garbage win rate at the moment, like really bad, but the E base damage is going up and the resistance reduction, which is not that easy to say, trust me, per stack has been increased. It's 40 more damage at rank 1, which is actually very good, and doubled reduction per stack as well, also really good, makes everything do more damage. That's the thing, it is a big damage increase, but it's probably not going to be enough to make him top tier again. Now into the jungle, the first one we're going to look at is a nerf to Sejuani. Probably aimed at pro play, but your ultimate stun duration has been decreased at max range stun. It's down half a second. It's not often that people in solo queue hit a max range Sejuani ult. Anyway, it's very difficult to hit actually. Most people use it point blank, so you shouldn't be affected too much, but if you do get hit by the downtown Sejuani ult, it won't last as long. Pantheon is also going to be here because it is a jungle change. They're giving him some bonus attack speed at level 1 purely so that attack speed helps your clear speed. Your W has a bit more damage as well, but it's nothing major really. It's just about healthier and a faster farm speed, which means you can go and duel people a bit more. You can gank at a higher health. So Rek'Sai is getting a bit of love this patch as well. Her Q and her R damage ratios have been increased, and full AD Rek'Sai is actually pretty good. She actually is top tier in Korea at the moment anyway. I know it doesn't mean everything's not very good over here, but she's very good early game and scales badly. That's why we don't use her, but these buffs actually help that. Vi is our last jungler, and the base attack speed has been increased, and our ultimate cooldown has been decreased. Attack speed, again, helps clear speed, same thing as Pantheon, and a quicker farm means more ganks and healthier ganks as well. A lower cooldown on our ultimate, 20 seconds rank 1, majorly helps your ganking though. You're so reliant on your ultimate, this could actually bring her back a little bit. So with some support changes, Karma is going to be our buff for the patch. We're waiting for a rework really, so it's just a band-aid fix to tide us over. You have better regen in the lane phase, so more spam with your Q, which I honestly cannot wait to play against an AD carry. A bit more durable to take some trades, so that's going to be good as well. and it's easier to hit your Q when you use your ultimate, even if it does a little bit less damage. It's going to be really good for push and poke lanes. Your wave clear, your poke is going to be amazing this patch. Rakan is the other support, and his full combo is still going to be perfectly fine, but you cannot use it as often. His Q and his ultimate have had their cooldown increased. Not as many engages and not as many heals or poke over and over again either. It limits your lane pressure just a little bit, but when you do decide to actually go fully and you commit to a fight, you're still going to be doing exactly the same. Finally then, let's jump into the top lane. So Nasus has had his passive lifesteal increased early game. It isn't huge. You're still going to have the same issues as a scaling champion, but your regen is going to be better. Maybe the Conqueror nerfs though will help him a little bit as well. If you stack some armor and you're against a very aggressive champion, you should do a little bit better. We could see him more again. Mundo is probably going to be affected by that Conqueror thing as well, would actually benefit out of that, but they are nerfing the Q health refund. You can't poke as much in the lane phase. You still can, but not quite as much. And right now it seems like he is kind of just unkillable. AD carries are geared towards the lane phase. They are not tank killers right now, really. Tank killers are the late game champions, which we don't play at the moment. Shen is going to have his Q slow decrease early, mostly pro play aimed at, I think, and support as well, or the early lane phase. Supports don't tend to max their Q, so they're going to be stuck at 15%. For top laners, though, they'll be having the 15% to start with. Obviously, once they max it out, it'll be the same. Two more. So Wukong has had his base damage decrease on his E at later ranks. Same as Talon, actually. You're going to have worse wave clear and then a lower trade and all-in damage. If you're not going to be able to push as hard and you're not going to be able to fight as easily or do as much damage, it should slow him down a little bit and stop him getting as fed as much in games. Sana's really just got another push to max your Q. Go for all in rather than maxing your E and be a really annoying tanky person who pokes you from range. Q-based damage and damage ratio has been increased at later ranks if you max it. And again, the Conqueror nerfs would help here. Lets tanks be a little bit better in the lane phase anyway, and then the all-in damage from Sana should be stronger. So that is going to be the patch 8.14. It was a pretty big one. I did my best to try to cut it down a little bit, but hopefully it all makes sense to you. Thank you for watching if you're still here, and for now, I will leave you with the robots.